So I'm going to give a 10-second countdown. Re-announce that and get going and call roll and have a little fun. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee for Tuesday, September 1st. I'm going to take, this is Council Lady Kathleen Murphy, the chair of the committee, and I will proceed to take roll before we have a motion regarding executive orders. So I see Council Lady Allen is with us. Council Lady Benedict, have you joined us?
Present.
I see her. Councilman Bradford, I have you down. Councilman Cash. Got you. Council Lady Evans. I'm not sure if she was joining us or if she was not joining us, so that might be just an absence. Council Lady Gamble, I see you. Councilman Hager, have you joined us? Okay, we'll come back to Councilman Hager. Councilman Hall, I saw you on the call. Is that correct?
Present.
I don't see you anymore. Great. Councilman O'Connell. Come back. Councilman Parker.
Here.
Councilman Rutherford, I see you.
Here.
Parker, was that you?
Yes, Councilman Parker is here.
Great. Council Lady Stiles, I see you. Council Lady Toombs.
Present.
I was like, I'm hearing ghost sounds, and that's her. Dan Reese, I saw you. There you are. Councilman Welch.
I am here, Chair, and I am also running between charter with Councilman O'Connell. So we're running back and forth.
Okay, Councilman Withers, are you on? I see you. Great. All right. I'm going to make the motion pursuant to Governor Lee's Executive Order 16 regarding electronic meetings as extended by Executive Orders 34 and 51. I make a motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council and that meeting electronically is absolutely necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Councilman Withers, would you like to second?
Sorry about that.
Council Lady Stiles. Oh, there we go.
Second.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. So go to my next. All right. So if you are against meeting electronically, please raise your electronic hand now or speak. Seeing none, hearing none, that motion passes and we will proceed. The reason I transferred over to Councilman Withers from Council Lady Stiles is that Council Lady Stiles has taken a vice chairmanship in another committee, and Councilman Withers will be joining as our vice chair. So he gets to be my designated second motion person. And then also I'd like to welcome, the only change in our committee membership was the addition of Council Lady Allen, who was our planning chair my first term for the first 2 years and brings lots of experience and knowledge. Not that we need her, but it is nice to have that on our added to our committee. So thank you for doing that. Now, the marked agenda I sent out earlier, there are some changes on it as to what is on consent, off consent, and that sort of thing. So follow along with me as we run through these. So starting on page 1, item number 2 is BL 2019-11 as amended. This is, I had it on consent to defer one meeting, but I'm going to just pull that off because if we do that, it will not be heard on the public hearing tonight. So we will come back to item number 2. So on page 2 of your agenda, item number 3 is on consent to defer one meeting. RS 2024-50 by Druffel approves an intergovernmental agreement between TDOT and Department of Public Works for the reimbursement of railroad crossing safety improvements at Post Road. Item number 4 is also on consent to be approved. RS 2025-10 Toombs and others approves a hazard mitigation grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Department of Water and Sewer Services and authorizes the acquisition and demolition of 3 homes located in various floodways and floodplains in Davidson County. Again, on consent to be approved. Item number 5, RS 2025-12, Syracuse and others, consent to be approved with the letter from councilman. Approves an amendment to an agreement between TDOT and the Department of Public Works for the construction of a sidewalk on Lebanon Pike. Item number 6, on consent to be approved. We have Council Lady Johnson, who we have. So it's by Toombs, Johnson, Toombs, Murphy, and Nash. Approves an amendment to an agreement between the TDOT and the Department of Public Works for acceptance of works in connection with the construction of sidewalks along the south of Harding Place from Danby Drive to Nolensville Pike. Again, on consent to be approved. Item number 7. This is BL 2020-221, Lee and Mendez. It is on consent to defer indefinitely. So previously it was noted for one meeting. It is now on consent to defer indefinitely. It amends 1 acre from AR2A to SP zoning for property located at 12558 Old Hickory Boulevard to permit up to 2 residential units, office, retail, warehouse, and building contractor supply. Again, that's on consent to be deferred indefinitely. Moving to item number 10, it was on consent, but I am pulling that off. Moving to item number 11, it's on consent to be approved. BL 2024-80, Syracuse, Hager, Murphy, Henderson, Welch, and Allen approves a greenway conservation easement for the property located at 2841 Lebanon Pike. Item number 12 on your agenda, BL 2024-09, Young, Hager, Murphy, Henderson, Welch, and Allen. I think we're about to get a quorum on some of these bills as sponsors. This is on consent to be approved. It is approving a greenway conservation easement for property located at 0 North Graycroft Avenue, owned by the Testamentary Trust of Emmanuel Shakehan. Should have worked on that before we got to this point. Item number 13 on consent to be approved. BL 2024-10 declares surplus and authorizes the conveyance of property located at 0 West Due West Avenue. Item number 14, if Council Lady Hancock is with us, is she with us?
Yes, I'm here, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, great. BL 2024-11, Hancock, Mendez, Murphy authorizes the Director of Public Property to transfer to Roger F. Williams and Joseph G. Donaldson, Scott Anderson, and Earl Lee Williams any remaining interest Metro government may have at the property located at 310 Myatt Drive, excluding the right-of-way. Again, on consent to be approved. Item number 15, BL 2024-12 by Sledge. It is, one moment. Okay. Authorizes the acquisition of certain right-of-way easements, drainage easements, and temporary construction easements and property rights for purposes of Valix Lane sidewalk improvements. Again, on consent to be approved. Item number 16 is on consent to be approved. BL 2024-13 by Nash, Mendez, Murphy, and Henderson. Authorizes the acquisition of right-of-way easements, drainage easements, temporary construction easements, and property rights for the use in public projects for purposes of the Brewer Drive sidewalk improvements. Item number 17, BL 2024-14, on consent to be approved. Hager, Murphy, Henderson, and O'Connell abandons a portion of an unnumbered alley right-of-way and easement from center northeastward. Item number 18 is on consent to be approved. BL 2024-15, O'Connell, Murphy, and Henderson abandons a portion of Union Street and Rosa L. Parks Avenue right-of-way and easement. Item number 19 is on consent to be approved. It is BL 2020-416, abandons existing public sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manhole and easements, and to accept new sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manholes and easements for property located at 514 Madison Station Boulevard. Bringing us to bills on third and final reading. Item number 20 has been added to consent to be approved by, so that's BL 2020-313 by Rutherford on consent to be approved. Changes 8.6 acres from AR2A to CLA and MULA zoning for property located at 6944 Nolensville Pike and 7236 Old Burkett Road. Item number 21 on your agenda has also been added to the consent to defer one meeting. This is BL 2020-368 by Rutherford. Changes 6.55 acres from CS to MULA zoning for property located at 6228 Nolensville Pike. Again, that has been put on consent to defer one meeting. Is there anything that needs to be pulled off before I run through those? I am not seeing any hands, so I'm going to run through that consent agenda one more time before we vote on it. So that is going to be item number 3, RS 2020-450 on consent to defer one meeting. Item number 4, RS 2020-510, consent to be approved. Item number 5, RS 2020-512, consent to be approved. Item number 6, RS 2020-513, consent to be approved. Item number 7, RS 2020-221, is on consent to be deferred indefinitely. Item number, the next page. Item number 11 is going to be BL 2020-408 on consent to be approved. Item number 12, BL 2020-409, consent to be approved. Item number 13, BL 2020-410, consent to be approved. Item number 14, BL 2020-411, consent to be approved. Item number 15, BL 2020-412, consent to be approved. Item number 16, BL 2020-413, consent to be approved. Item number 17, BL 2020-414, consent to be approved. Item number 18, BL 2020-415, consent to be approved. Item number 19, BL 2020-416, consent to be approved. Item number 20, BL 2020-313, consent to be approved. Item number 21, BL 2020-368, consent to defer one meeting. That is the follow-up of your consent agenda. I am making a motion on that consent agenda. Councilman Weathers.
Madam Chair, I would like to second that.
For the second. Fabulous. If you'd like to vote against our consent agenda, please raise your virtual hand or speak now. Hearing none and seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. That brings us back to the first bill on our first legislation on our agenda, item number 2, BL 2019-11, Allen, Toombs, Young, Sledge, Hurt, and others, approves an amendment to the ground. I'm sorry. I'm making a motion. Councilman Withers. We'll take that as a second. Approves an amendment to the ground lease for Rose Park between the Department of Parks and Recreation and Belmont University, and new ground lease between Metro Board of Education and Belmont University for the construction operation of an indoor batting and locker training facility. And so I will say that I had previously put this on the consent to defer one meeting because the public hearing is tonight. And I didn't think that we should be voting on it before we hear from the public. And so we can discuss it, but but I would recommend that in order to have the public hearing tonight, we do have to approve it and re-refer. As many of you know, that is one of my most hated types of motions, is to pass something out, simply to boomerang it back to us. But that is seems to be the only way to have the public hearing tonight and still have us deliberate on it. So I'll go to Council Lady Allen if she wants to speak on this briefly, but it will be coming back before us. So Council Lady Allen, you have the floor.
Thank you. I will just give a brief explanation because it's a little complicated. This is changing some lease agreements that revolve around Belmont University's ball fields, which were built at Rose Park beginning in 2007 when that first lease agreement was signed. As you explained, this bill removes a proposed batting facility that was originally proposed to be on Park's property. In the last term in 2017, we passed a bill to put it there and then discovered that we hadn't done the proper community engagement. And that is kind of the theme of this whole thing, is that we're going to create a better process from here on out. What we're doing now is undoing that, which was wrongly done, and approving the location of that on school property. Unfortunately, that was also done without the appropriate community engagement. And so that's the reason why this has been deferred since September, so that we could go back, since October, so that we could go back and have the needed community engagement to try to turn the process around, not only for this, but for anything else that happens on this property in the future. And to that end, the third thing this bill does is creates a community oversight committee that would review the conditions of both of these lease agreements and ensure that the community is being put first in everything, and that the conditions are being fulfilled, and if something has fallen through the cracks, that it's identified early and fixed promptly. I will say, as I've pointed out, the process has been imperfect, but as we've gone through this community engagement, there are a number of reporting requirements and communication that it's been pointed out have just broken down. And through that process, we have put a number of things back in place that this committee, I think, will do a good job of keeping in place. So ultimately, I think this will be a much better arrangement once we get this passed. If we don't pass this, then there will still be a lease that allows Belmont to build a ball field at Rose Park. And we've already established that that was not something the community wanted. So this is moving us in the direction of doing what the community has asked for, and I would ask for your support both of a substitute ordinance as well as 2 amendments. Thank you for the time to explain that.
So, Council Lady Allen, procedurally, I am a little bit hesitant to move the substitute and amendment forward tonight in case there is any other feedback or concerns brought up in the public hearing tonight. But I am at the will of the committee, obviously. So do you feel it is to be in a better posture in front of us to have the amendment and the substitute on, or would it make more sense to, when this comes back to us, have that consolidated substitute and amendment? Which helps you with your community engagement?
I think just in terms of having people talking about the correct documents, it is helpful to go ahead and get the substitute, because that attaches the lease with the school that MNPS adopted unanimously last week, with some changes that the community had asked for. And so I think it's better for the community to be able to see that those have been incorporated, so that they know that that has been listened to. And in the same way, the amendment, the first amendment, is one that was timely filed. Puts in place the committee, and that, to me, that is one of the most important things this bill does. And so it is certainly my preference to have that language out there in public view as something that is part of this process, to just ensure that from now on the community engagement is the key piece, and that community use is the top priority. The second one is more of a refinement. If we can't get to that one until later, I could wait, except that if this comes back on third reading, it's not amendable. It is amendable on second reading. So I was trying to incorporate everything I could at this point.
Okay, so you do have a late filed amendment as well. So we need to vote on separate things before we can move it forward.
That is correct.
Okay. So I'm going to let you take the wheel on what you want to move first.
I would like to move the substitute. And the substitute simply adds the latest and greatest school lease, and it incorporates simply a statement from the parks lease that says there is no longer the possibility of building a batting facility on Metro Parks property, which is appropriate, as well as takes out a bunch of language that is now incorporated into the school lease. That's the substitute that I would like to move.
Okay, and I apologize, before I went back to you, there were some hands, and so, but we are now on the amendment. So council members who have their hands raised, I will come back to you whether it's on the amendment or on the total bill. So just, you can leave your hands up. So I will second that motion of Council Lady Allen on the substitute. So the substitute is properly before us. Council Lady Gamble, would you like to speak on the substitute?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say that I appreciate all of the work that the sponsor has done on this particular bill and the substitute. And I wanted to clarify that if we didn't put the substitute on this bill before it goes to the floor, that means that we would be voting on the previous bill that allowed the building of the facility on the parks ground, not the school ground. Is that correct?
Council Lady Allen.
I think both versions have a statement that we are trying to change the original parks lease to remove that piece of it. It's just more consistent between all the documents if I move the substitute.
Okay.
And the First Amendment.
Okay, so I agree that that as a body, it would be good to go on and move the substitute tonight, so that the language can be clear what we're passing or voting for.
Great. Council Lady Gamble, does that clarify? Do you have any other comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. Councilman O'Connell, would you like to speak at this time, or you have the right to speak later, but would you like to speak now?
I'm more interested in kind of the final version, so you can come back to me.
Okay, will do. All right, so we have the substitute properly before us. Seeing no other hands to speak on the substitute, I will take the vote. So actually, Councilman O'Connell, if you'll take your hand down for a second. If you would like to vote against the substitute going on to BL 2019-11, please raise your hand now to vote against the substitute. Okay, seeing none, Council Lady, your bill is substituted. Would you like to start with your proposed amendment or the late filed amendment, just to keep them clear? We can name them that.
Right, thank you. I would like to start with the timely filed amendment, which may be called Amendment 1. And all this does is create the Community Oversight Committee and set up its structure.
Okay, I will second that motion. If you would like to speak on the timely filed amendment, please raise your hand now. Seeing none, hearing, Councilman Hager, the floor is yours.
Just a quick question to the sponsor. Who's going to be on the Oversight Committee?
Thank you for that question. It consists of 8 people, a representative from Metro Parks, a representative from Metro Schools, a representative from Belmont University, and a representative designated by the Mayor's Office of Neighborhoods. And then there would be 4 neighborhood representatives, one nominated by District 18, where Belmont sits, one nominated by District 19, where a number of residents who utilize the park sit, and 2 nominated by District 17, where the park and the 2 schools, as well as a lot of residents, reside. So that's the component of the 8.
Okay, thank you.
Council Liddy, are they, they're nominated by those districts? Who confirms them? Or who appoints them?
So this is similar to the Belmont Neighborhood Advisory Group, which was set up to deal with the Belmont institutional overlay. And that is, it is at the discretion of those people who've been appointed to nominate them, and there is no further confirmation process. If we need to.
Okay, Councilman O'Connell, would you like to speak now or hold till we get on the whole thing?
Yeah, actually, on this one, I do want to speak. I'm just curious. This seems to depart a little bit from the structure of that neighborhood advisory process, and I'm just curious how the numbers were arrived at. I mean, I understand that this is a District 17 asset, but in fact, it's actually much closer to many of the residences on the District 19 side. So I didn't know if there was a reason for the sort of extra representative from District 17.
Council Lady Allen.
Sorry,
You are muted.
Now I'm unmuted. Because the property and the parks and the schools sit there, as well as a lot of residents, that has provided a reason for extra weight on that particular district, as opposed to the other two where it's residents alone.
Okay.
Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not convinced of the nature of the weighting, but I will continue thinking about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other hands in the queue, Councilman O'Connell, if you'll drop down so we can take a vote on the timely filed amendment just to keep them in order. This is the one that sets up the advisory. If you would like to vote against this amendment, please raise your hand or speak now. Seeing none and hearing none, Council Lady, your bill is amended, as substituted is amended. And now you have the floor to, I will go ahead and move your late filed amendment so you may second it and explain.
I will second that amendment. This is in response to a request from a neighbor. I have worked diligently over, I think, 9 months now, trying to be responsive to requests from neighbors where they are addressable by either the legislation or the lease agreements. And many of the things will be addressable by the committee, but a suggestion was made just in the last day or two to ensure that the language in the parks agreement is very clear that neighborhood activities are prioritized over not only over Belmont activities, but on outside of neighborhood activities. So just for a little bit of background, Metro Parks is in charge of all schedules.
Metropolitan Clerk's Office.
Whoops, someone needs to move.
Macy.
Thank you.
Macy, you are unmuted. Macy Hill.
I'll proceed if I can. Okay.
Yes, go ahead, Council Lady.
So Metro Parks does all the scheduling, and it does state specifically in the Parks lease agreement that that the neighboring schools and Metro Parks activities have priority in scheduling over Belmont activities. But within that definition of what Metro activities are, Metro Parks activities, it does not specifically acknowledge what has been the practice, which is to give the Edge Hill community priority scheduling over other groups. And so this is simply to get that practice written down somewhere so that the neighbors have a level of comfort that is what is intended and will continue to go that way. So I apologize that it's late, but it was an idea that was suggested only in the last day or two. And I would love to have it included if we could.
All right, hearing that explanation, if you have questions or discussion on this, please raise your hand now. Okay, again, this is I am predicting the future here, but I am predicting this will come back before us and we will discuss this in depth some more. So now that that amendment is properly motioned in front of us, we'll go ahead and take a vote on it. So if you are against the late filed amendment being added, please raise your hand or speak your name now. Seeing none and hearing none, Council Lady, your bill is substituted and amended twice. And so I'm going to make the motion to approve this on second reading, but refer it back to our committee as substituted and twice amended. Council Lady, would you like to second that to have the motion in front of us and ready for discussion?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this process is interesting, and I don't know. I mean, I would be a little bit interested in understanding from the sponsor's perspective why it was necessary, right? I mean, I look at this and say, Belmont as an institution has already extracted some value from Rose Park. This was a very controversial neighborhood conversation well before I took office, but you can talk to many longstanding residents and understand that the scars are still there. As I see it, the overall proposal here is still one being made largely at Belmont's convenience. It is not as though Metro Parks ever went out and said, hey, we're going to issue an RFP. It's not as though Metro Schools ever went out and said, we're going to issue an RFP. We'd like to expand the public benefit offered here. I just don't understand the nature of the proposal being done at a singular institution's behest. I think if we looked at any other park, say Elmington Park, and had a nearby but not adjacent institution, say my alma mater, Montgomery Bell Academy, say we'd like to build a batting cage there that will occasionally be open to the public, but to which we will have some exclusive rights, it would be shot down almost immediately. And I think that's a perfect example of why this overall arrangement is particularly problematic. It is not being done from the perspective of how can we maximize public interest. It's being done from the perspective of somebody made a proposal, oh, heck, let's see if we can dial up the public interest to a point where it is no longer particularly objectionable. I think maybe that part has been achieved, but I think the overall proposal is still problematic existentially. If we get into the actual arrangement, I did raise a minor concern about the committee makeup. I think my other bigger problems are potentially the park lease, and I might ask the sponsor to describe and summarize the updates to the park lease. And then again, I think if we look into the details of this, I do have some questions about payments made to Metro Parks over the terms of the existing arrangement with the Easley Center and how those are accounted for both presently and going forward.
Thank you, Councilman O'Connell. Council Lady Allen, would you like to address some of those now?
Yes, I will address some of those now. To circle back around to the parks lease in particular, again, if we don't do this, there is a lease agreement out there that says Belmont can build a batting facility on parks property. And everyone's pretty much agreed that that is not desired. To use your example, which I think is a good one, if someone came to us, I think someone needs to mute again. If someone came to my neighborhood and said, we would like to improve the soccer field behind Weston Middle School, and it will be shared between us and the students at Weston Middle School, and we'll pay the interest. I think that would be a different proposition. And again, community engagement should be the first.
I'm sorry, Council Lady Allen, just a second. Councilman O'Connell, can you mute? I think you've got some tap dancing mouse over there. Councilor Allen, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. So in my example, if the location were chosen in a spot that was not currently being used, like an unused hillside with 3 parking spaces in it, which is where it's being moved to, I think that is much less of an intrusion. The acknowledgement has to be made that the history of this is contentious. I think it's probably also useful for people to know that the current parks agreement was written such that if we end it early, then Metro would be able to buy Belmont out of the value that they put into that at a cost of around $6 or $7 or $8 or $9 million. So ending the current lease and removing Belmont from the property is a costly proposition. You can say what you want to about how that was done in 2007. We can't we can't change what is in the contract without spending $8 million. So I want council members to be clear on that. So my goal has been to try to listen to what the concerns are and to work through as many solutions as we can find. And to that end, as we've looked at the original parks agreement, it stipulated that Belmont would pay $50,000 a year, and there is a record of those payments being made every year and escalating at 3%. 20% of that goes to the 2 adjoining schools, and 80% of that goes to the Easley Center. There is a much better record of that check being deposited into Metro's business unit. For the Easley Center, there is a list of activities that have happened using that extra money that would not be available without this payment. If you look for dollar to dollar, I think the Metro has been somewhat casual in keeping track of that because they're focusing on providing entertainment and enlightenment and enrichment for kids. But again, part of this process has been, I think, just to get more focus on how this stuff is being, how the conditions are being fulfilled. And I think that things from this time going forward, because of the scrutiny, will be documented more effectively. And I think that's a benefit of this process. The same is true of the annual reports that were required by the original lease agreement. Those have been filed and sent to council members as required. That includes Councilmember O'Connell and Councilmember Sledge, along with all the other reports that we as council members get. And I can sadly confess that I have not dutifully filed them away or sent them on to interested parties. So as a result of this process, those are now easy to find on the Metro Parks website. The question has also been raised about exactly how are the fields used, so that information is now much more detailed than it used to be. And in terms of dealing with parking and field access, already just in working with the neighbors, better signage has been put up just in explaining the use of the fields, the numbers to call if people want to make reservations to use the fields. And finally, the green space access, as we have just done, is spelled out in the original lease that Metro Parks activities take precedent over Belmont scheduling. And we have now added language that then puts within that Edge Hill community is at the top of that pyramid. And I think that's an important thing to do. And from what I have heard from neighbors, that is the most important thing. They mourn the loss of that green space and the access to it. I mean, the green space, much of it is still there. It's just that now when you walk up and there are people using it, it's hard to know if it's okay for you to go onto a field or not. So we're trying to make that more apparent, and I believe that the committee will continue to work on that. And then finally, this sets up the advisory council, which I think is a really important piece of making what we have there function better and be more community driven. And it will ensure that anything that happens in the future will be known by the community before it ever comes to council. And that's what's missing. So that's why I believe that an imperfect process is being made better. And this is providing a template to set up legislation that I've got coming through so that all long-term public leases will now include the need for community engagement on the front end and an advisory committee being created.
Great. Thank you, Council Lady Allen. I suspect that we will have a lot of public hearing tonight on this. And so I think what would be great is, because I know we have a storm brewing and some people are cutting in and out because of power and electricity and things. You don't mind sending a summary of some of your comments to the planning committee so we can be prepared for our next meeting. That would be great. I did want to point out that while this was approved with conditions by the Planning Commission last October, that was actually my first meeting on the Planning Commission. Planning's role at that in this juncture with this legislation was to determine whether the use of land was a civic use. Not whether we necessarily approved a piece or approved of other things, but whether this was civic use still. And so I just wanted to clarify what question was in front of council or the commission at that time. And I too, Councilman O'Connell, Councilman
And I sent you an email on August 19th about an issue regarding an intersection in Old Creek, the Lakewood area. If you could, can you give me a call back? I'd like to discuss it with you if you have 10 minutes. My telephone number is 50.
Councilman Hager? Councilman Hager? Could you mute?
Yes.
Could you mute? Thank you. Could you mute? Great. Thank you. Gotcha. So I just wanted to echo Councilman O'Connell's comments that I had also said at the Planning Commission meeting then is, you know, when we are thinking through situations like this, we hear a lot of great things about Belmont. I'm a Belmont alum, and I know all the great work that they've done in the community and the pluses and minuses of their history. But we also need to think through, what if we swapped them out for any other organization or school in the area or corporation, and think of that as well. So Council Lady Allen, I think at this point I'm going to move. I think we have moved to re-refer. And we've seconded that. So what we'll do now is we will take a vote. And so if you are against approving this and re-referring it to us, keeping in mind that we are approving and re-referring tonight a little bit just as symbolically so we can have the public hearing and have more discussion next time, please raise your hand if you are against the motion to approve and re-refer. Okay, we have Councilman O'Connell, Councilman Bradford, Council Lady Evans voting against the motion to approve, and Council Lady Welch. Anyone else? O'Connell, Bradford, okay, wait. We have O'Connell, Russ, are you're set now? Okay, O'Connell, Evans, Welch, and Bradford are voting against approving this tonight. If you would like to abstain, please, so if y'all will lower your hands. If you'd like to abstain, please raise your hand now. I am going to abstain on this one at this time. So that leads us with 12 in favor, 4 against, and 1 abstention. Okay, so that takes us to item number 8 on your agenda. Substitute BL 2020-224 by Councilman Hager and Hauser. Amends the Councilman Taylor and Hauser. I was combining those names. Amends the Metro Code to require landlords to provide notice to tenants prior to sale of property. Do we have Councilman Taylor? Yes, we do. I see you. So I'm going to make the motion to have the bill in front of us. Councilman Withers, if you will second.
Second.
Thank you. And I'm going to go to the to Councilman Taylor to update us on this legislation, since it's been moved about and edited, and explain that we have a proposed amendment and a proposed second substitute. So we'll also talk with Councilman Nash. So Councilman Taylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I do have an amendment, as Councilmember Murphy discussed, and I'd like to ask someone to move that amendment for us.
So moved.
Who, I'm sorry, say your name if you hadn't raised your hand.
Oh, sorry, it's Aaron Evans.
Okay, Council Lady Aaron Evans motions for it. We're looking for a second. I'm not seeing any hands. Who seconded the motion?
Councilman Bradford.
All right, Councilman Bradford. So we now have the Taylor amendment properly before us. Councilman Taylor, would you like to explain your amendment?
Yes, thank you so much. So we've been working on this for quite some time, and I've been working with several parties, and where we've came is to get to, instead of the 90 days, we want to go to 30 days notice for landlords to notice tenants of a sale. And also, if you have 100 units or more, this is not applicable. You can add this provision into your lease. And also, if you have a written lease, it's the same. I know you all have been receiving several communications from the realtors, and I've been working closely with that group. And I know we've had a brigade of emails come through over the last few days, but the realtors have been able to work with us and have removed their opposition and are in a place of neutrality with this, with the amendment added. So I would like to work with you all to add that amendment. In Section B of the amendment, it is just to mirror the state law. Had a lot of conversations in regards to the state law. And so we wanted to make sure that we added that information into this bill as well. So there's no confusion with the state law and the current additions to this bill.
Councilman, I know that there are still other groups other than the realtors that are opposed to this legislation. Where are you in meeting with them and resolving some what is being called unintended consequences at this time?
Yeah, so working there to try to work with them to get a better understanding of what that means. It's been some new findings, I guess we could say, that have been mentioned here regards to that I've found out about this week. So, working to get more information in detail of that from groups.
Okay, and I guess I have one or two more comments, and then I've got a few hands in the committee. I always have concerns when we are quoting or referencing state law because that state law could change and that can cause problems later on. And then could you explain a little bit more why we are allowing people who have 100 units, this doesn't apply to them, but going after kind of smaller landlords and moms and pops?
So 52.2% of Nashvilleians renting rent in homes that are smaller units, and 13.7% of those rent in the larger multifamily units. And so that's why we made that change here. We have more people that we can protect, and the majority of individuals that we can protect are going to be in those smaller units. And then we have a smaller amount of individuals there. And also working with apartment associations, that was one of the groups that I've been working with. Generally, their leases have more of a annual lease, and that was a conversation that we've had, and I think I've had with many council members on this last call that we had a few weeks ago. Is that if we are looking for individuals, the law is now is that if you are going to take over a lease, you have to take over the entire lease if you own the property. And so you have to complete that lease out. And so generally those larger companies have an annual lease or 12-month lease, and some of these other smaller homes are month to month. If you do not have a written lease, you will then have to, you're then by law on a month-to-month lease, which then gives you a renewal of 30 days if you're going to renew the lease.
Okay. We will go to Councilman Bradford.
Thank you, Chair. So my question is, with the change from 90 days to 30 days, are we comfortable that 30 days is still enough time notice for individuals who are going to need time in order, whether it's to locate new housing, to come up with money for deposits, relocate children in schools, et cetera, et cetera? Are we comfortable with 30 days?
Thank you, Councilman Bradford. That was a question that I wanted to see. In working to the 30 days, one of the areas that I was comfortable with going down from 90 to 30 is that it adds still 30 days, Councilman. And then, as I mentioned earlier, if there's not going to be a renewal of the lease, that's more or less a total of 60 days before, if at all, a family would have to leave. But on the flip side, it doesn't prevent or slow down a transaction as much as 90 days would.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Councilman Bradford. All right, thank you. Councilman Hager, you have the floor.
You know, I've been practicing law and we have the Landlord Tenant Act.
I'm losing Councilman Hager. He's in and out. Are you there? Councilman Hager, we've lost you, and we will come back. Council Lady Benedict.
Chair, can you hear me?
I can hear you, and Councilman Hager will come back to you after Benedict.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Sorry, I'm having some challenges with my Metro laptop here. Could you please ask the sponsor of the bill of the tenants who don't currently have a lease that this impacts, as well as the landlords who have who will be exempted from this because they have more than 100 units. Do we have any indication about how many Nashvillians this will impact and benefit?
About 50%.
So, and do we have a number of what that is?
Councilman Taylor?
So 50% of the population would be roughly what, 600,000 to 700,000.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yeah.
So about 175,000 people, probably, give or take, that we'd be helping here with this, right? Okay, thank you, Councilmember Taylor. So my position on this is that and I've signed on to be a co-sponsor of this legislation. We're going through a time that people are having to make sacrifices like nobody has seen in our lifetimes. And one of the concerns that I have is that we have apartment association owners, we have landlords that own many units, and I'm not suggesting that they're printing money. However, we also have low-income residents who aren't being given notice to vacate the premises because the landlord needs to sell their property. And this is going to protect that. And again, as we look at shared sacrifice right now, we're all tightening our belt, right? Tonight and every night at council lately, we're talking about ways that we can save the city money, cuts that we can make. We did that certainly throughout the budget cycle. You know, in this particular case, the landlords with whom I've spoken understand that, you know, where they might be making X number of dollars per month on their rental properties this month, they may need to make less next month, either because of the tax increase or because of other reasons that they don't necessarily want to pass on. They understand that their tenants are going through an equally difficult time. And so they'd rather keep a tenant at a lower rate and make less profit. So how this ties in with this bill, circling back, is that we're seeing that tenants do need to be protected. There are many landlords out there that aren't like the small landlords who I've spoken with a couple of rental properties or less. We got to make sure that those tenants, in my opinion, these are Nashvillians who are being squeezed. They're not able to go to work right now, or they're working class and being exposed, not provided proper PPE. And they're going to get another kick in the teeth by, needing to move out of their home with no notice. So this is, in my opinion, legislation that's going to help a tremendous amount of Nashvillians stay in their rental property and have one area of stability for their kids where they go to school, for their work and what transportation they use to get to work. To me, it just makes sense that we want to focus on helping Nashvillians, and this is one piece of legislation that we can successfully do so. Thank you, Chair.
Councilman Hager. Oh, I've got a warning sign on his video right now. I guess we'll come back. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is again on the amendment, which I think I support most of its intent. I am about the unit proposal though, because somewhat, I guess I'm thinking about it from the standpoint of, again, having known many homeowners, including in my own neighborhood, where they've had to make difficult decisions over the past few years. And we've lived here long enough to have seen the difficult decisions people had to make through the Great Recession with regard to what they were going to do with their properties. Sometimes either their first home, their original home, their long-term home. I mean, different natures, durations of home ownership. And I worry that we're actually putting more of this burden exactly on the number of people that might have just a single home that they might be renting temporarily while taking a job that is outside of Nashville and making the tough choice about whether to try to return to the city at some point. And they may be active before they can. And I worry that, requiring this notice still continues to penalize the smaller ones, while now instead we're letting the larger landlords off the hook. When this bill was originally filed, I thought the bigger issue was larger multifamily properties changing hands more regularly and not as much an issue of kind of the smaller, hey, maybe I've got a single rental property, or even maybe I'm becoming a landlord for the first time kind of scenarios. And now I'm more worried that we're imposing a burden on those people that we're letting the larger multifamily property owners avoid. I understand the sponsor's original intent here was concerns about displacement, particularly after the tornado, but this is going to have much broader reaching impact on smaller landlords whom are not there to just participate in these massive real estate transactions, but some of whom either have gotten to a point out of necessity, but sometimes out of the ability to make those investments that we're actually moving a problem. And I guess, again, I'm curious about the nature of the amendment in this regard too. I worry that we're confusing sale of a property with validity of lease, in that it is not it is not the case that selling a property negates a lease. In fact, the lease has to be dealt with appropriately by a new owner. So I'm just curious, again, to dig into a little bit here, if the sponsor is looking at ways to kind of offer potential flexibility, or if there is even, and maybe this is something that Mr. Cooper could speak to, is there an exemption process here, right? Is there some way that the tenant could actually be involved that says, okay, it's okay to go ahead and get on the market. I know I'm going to be safe here because of the existing terms of my lease. Is there any kind of exemption mechanism?
Mr. Cooper, are you on the line, or Ms. Zeitlin?
This is Hannah Zeitlin. I just want to make sure, has the amendment been added to this? Because I think that's going to maybe shape some
No, it's not. We are discussing the amendment. We are discussing the amendment.
Am I unmuted? My WebEx is kind of freaking out a little bit.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry. Okay, here we go. So as currently written, there's not really any sort of opt-out provision for anyone, but when you look to the amendment, and hang on, I'm going to switch over to it. This exempts those with written rental agreements, and it exempts properties that have 100 rental units or more.
I got it. Okay, so it does exempt the written rental agreement. So the only applies to those people that do not have a written rental agreement at this point.
Correct.
All right, that answers a big amount of my questions, so thank you.
Sure.
Councilman Hager, before we lose you again, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. You all know I've been practicing law for 34 years. I have done pro bono work for tenants. I've been a plaintiff's attorney on rental properties. I own rental properties. So I'm going to ask the sponsor, how does this change any different from the Landlord Tenant Act? The Landlord Tenant Act, if you're on a month-to-month lease, the terminating day is the day before the rent is due. Now, I have a lot of rental properties where I have usually a one-year contract. Sometimes I renew them, sometimes I don't. If I don't renew that contract, then my tenants go on a month-to-month lease. As such, if I need to sell the property or I need to ask them to vacate the property, then I have to give them 30 days notice under the Landlord Tenant Act. So why are we passing this when we already have a state law under the Landlord Tenant Act that covers all this? That's my question.
Councilman Taylor and Ms. Zeitlin, I guess what would be great is maybe Ms. Zeitlin, could you tell us if what we are doing is covered by the Landlord Tenant Act before we go to the sponsor?
So this actually is, I guess, operates in sort of a gap in the Landlord Tenant Act. The Landlord Tenant Act does have provisions on termination of a lease agreement. However, this is notice of change of a landlord, basically. That's not something that's covered by the Landlord Tenant Act.
Well, as I understand, no, because I still have to give notice. If I go to court and I'm on somebody to vacate, then I have to give them 30 days notice because I'm on a month-to-month lease. The law is clear that you can have a one-year verbal lease, but if they're paying month-to-month, you still have to give them 30 days notice. If I go to court and try to get them out any earlier, that's the first thing the court's going to ask me, that I give the 30-day notice. That's the way it works. So I don't know why we're passing this, because the Landlord Tenant Act gives tenants greater rights than in other counties in this city. And I tell all my clients that if you're on a month-to-month lease, you got to give them a 30-day notice to vacate, or if they're not paying their rent, you give them 30 days, you file your detainer warrant. That's just that simple. So yeah, you can pass the amendment, but I think the Landlord Tenant Act covers all this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hager. Ms. Zeitlin, is there something in state law or Metro code that prohibits us from requiring written leases?
So the state law discusses written leases, and it basically says in the absence of a written lease, you have a month-to-month lease. So I think by virtue of the state law speaking to that issue, Metro is, I guess, preempted.
So I guess more clarification on my question is, with the other legislation that came before the council dealing with the rent notice increase, and this legislation, we keep talking about it exempts written leases. If you don't have a written lease, I'm wondering if the main concern is people who don't have written leases, why we are not trying to require written leases. I have some other comments, but we'll go back to Council Lady Benedict. And Councilman Hager, if you are you finished, if you'll undo your hand, or unraise your hand, sorry. Unless you want me to come back to you.
Thank you, Chair.
Benedict.
Thank you, Chair. Respectfully, could I ask the sponsor of the bill to answer that last point that was raised by Councilmember Hager with regards to, I believe Councilmember Hager said something to the effect of needing to give 30 days to vacate. But I think the spirit of the bill is about not necessarily asking the tenant to vacate, but rather giving notice that, hey, I'm going to sell this property. You either can stay or don't need to stay, depending on what the new owner wants. The property may not even sell if I'm asking a crazy high price, or if somebody doesn't like the condition. It's the legislation, and I'd like the sponsor to correct me if I'm wrong here, is what I'm asking, Chair. The legislation, I believe, is intended to say to those folks who are in a month-to-month lease or no lease at all, that with no other terms that override this, if they have no protection, the bill is designed to, that the folks, that if the landlord intends to sell the property, they just need to give that notice. Hey, I'm planning to sell the property to the tenant 30 days before they list the property. It has nothing to do with telling the tenant to vacate, which I believe is the spirit of the Tennessee law. So, Chair, respectfully, if you care to get that confirmation from the sponsor, I'd appreciate it.
Councilman Taylor, would you like to address the comments made?
Yes, so Councilman Hager is absolutely correct. If there is no written lease, it goes to month to month. And as for a month to month, you do have 30 days to ask for the tenant to vacate or not to renew the lease. But, however, we're not focusing on that with this bill completely. That is a part of the bill, but this also gives an additional 30 days notice for preparation. So if something were to happen with your living situation in the place you call home, you have a little bit more preparation than 30 days. If we have a family that has to move to a different school zone, or a family that has to change from point A to point B, right now 5.9% of the for renters in Nashville, you only have 5.9% of the housing stock that is available. So under 6% of the rental housing stock is available. And so it's going to be almost impossible to find something that quick. Nevertheless, if you have to come up with a deposit or first and last month. So trying to prepare people a little bit ahead of time so we can mitigate some of the displacement and other problems that we see in the city.
Okay, so we have the proposed amendment by Councilman Taylor motioned and seconded in front of us. I had just one more comment, and if anyone else has comments, please raise your hand. I am troubled by this amendment. I am troubled that we are quoting and citing the Tennessee Code Annotated, which is subject to change yearly, and that can be problematic in the future. I also feel that by exempting out big landlords, it's almost, to me, it reeks of a benefit to the big boys that can have multiple units or a large apartment complex. And it basically punishes and implies that small landlords cause problems and are not providing affordable housing. I have a lot of concerns about the mom and pop landlords out there who might not know of this legislation and might get caught in this, because those are the ones who are suffering the same way that many of Nashvillians are, and might need to sell their property quickly because of the economy or because of personal life circumstances. And so I'm not able to support. While this amendment does make the bill better, I just have too many reservations about this in the bill as a whole. But Councilman Taylor, you have the floor, and then if there are no other hands, we'll take the vote. Oh, I see Councilman O'Connell. Councilman Taylor, and then O'Connell.
Thank you, Chair. So in essence, I'm worried about the citizens of Nashville. These landlords not always are citizens and representatives of Nashville, but the people that live in Davidson County are the people that we get a chance to go to work for every day. And so that's why I'm writing this bill and why I would love your support tonight on this amendment as well on the bill. And so, when we think about the small mom and pops, they do have an opportunity to have a written lease, which does have add some coverage there. And so what we want to do, again, if it's a month-to-month specifically, that is where we see the coverage a little more loose, or it's loose in there. And so my goal is to protect Nashvillians, and my goal is to work for Nashvillians, and I think this is exactly what this bill does.
Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think in light of the concerns about some of the technical aspects of the amendment, I'd like to actually move to defer the bill without the amendment applied for one meeting.
I will second that motion. So that is the motion before us. Councilor Hurt, do you have a comment on the motion to defer?
No, that came right after. So thank you.
Okay. So are there any comments on the motion to defer the bill? Councilman Taylor.
Thank you. Respectfully, I'd ask my colleagues to vote to approve this amendment tonight. I think we've done some good work, and I think the bill is in a place that we can move forward. So respectfully, again, I'd ask my colleagues to support the amendment of this bill.
Okay, so we are on the motion to defer the bill in front of us, properly seconded. If you would like to vote against the motion to defer, please raise your hand now. Okay, so we have Benedict, Wells, Evans, Hall, Toombs. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Two. Is
Chair,
there any?
Chair,
yes.
I apologize. This is Councilmember Parker. Could you repeat the motion we're voting on, please?
This is a motion to defer the bill. And so we are voting, and we have Benedict, Welch, Evans, Hall, and Toombs voting against the motion to defer. Are there any abstentions?
I would like to vote against the motion to defer.
And so Councilwoman Gamble would like to vote against the motion to defer.
Okay.
And Councilmember Stiles.
Okay, y'all raise, it's helpful to raise your hand so we don't have people talking over each other. So at this point, we have Benedict, Welch, Evans, Hall, Toombs, Parker, Gamble, and Stiles. Are there any abstentions? So if y'all will put your hands down, and then if there are any abstentions, please raise your hand. No abstentions. So that motion is 8 against the motion to defer and 9 to approve the motion to defer. The bill is deferred.
Chair, it was breaking up. Could you please repeat that count?
9 in favor of the motion to defer, 8 against the motion to defer, 0 abstentions. So the bill is deferred.
Thank you for that.
Moving to item number 9, BL 2020-386, as amended. Allen, Hancock, and Bradford amends the Metro Code regarding the selection of appraisers for the sale, purchase, lease, sublease, or other disposition of property owned by Metro, and to require a community meeting prior to the execution of lease agreements. I will move this to have it in front of us. Council Lady Allen, would you like to? Oh, she's missing from her Brady Bunch square. Councilman Withers, would you like to second that?
I will second, and I believe Councilmember Allen's returning, but yes, I will second.
My bill is it's coming up before Parks at this very moment, so if y'all can do it for me, that would be great, or if we need to defer, that would be okay too.
We'll handle it for you, Council Lady. Please, you can attend your other meeting. So with it is properly in front of us, I'm going to then make a motion for the proposed amendment. And Councilman Bradford, would you like to carry the sponsorship here? You have the floor to explain the amendment. Councilman Bradford, did we lose you? I see two Freddie O'Connells.
Yeah, my internet went out, so I'm in on my phone. Sorry.
Do we have Councilman Bradford? I'm not hearing anyone. And we don't have Council Lady Henderson. All right, so the amendment looks pretty lengthy. Ms. Zeitlin, could you explain the amendment for us?
Sure. This outlines notice procedures for the bill. Let me pull up the full bill as well.
Okay, so I will give a brief summary of the bill while Ms. Zeitlin is catching up with us. That's okay. So going off the analysis, this ordinance as amended regarding selectors as said in the caption. Oh, this is lengthy. I thought I could summarize it off the top of my head. So what we might do is just roll this to the heel and we will come back to it. That gives Ms. Zeitlin a little bit of time. So item number 10 on our agenda is BL 2020-390, Mendez, Murphy, and Henderson. Grants a franchise to Google Fiber Tennessee, LLC, to construct, operate, and maintain a fiber optic communication system. I am going to make a motion. Councilman Withers.
Second.
Thank you. And I pulled this off of the consent because I realized there has been heavy discussion in the other two committees, Budget and Finance and Public Works, and that is we've deferred it following their lead. But I wanted to, before it moved forward tonight, see if there were any questions from the Planning Committee that needed to be brought up to Google before it came before us again. Does any of the Planning Committee members have questions on Google Fiber? I know the other committees have had a robust discussion, and I am seeing none, and I'm pretty certain we are losing members to other committees. So at this time, I will just continue. Council Lady Benedict.
Thank you, Chair. I guess we did have lengthy discussions in both Budget and Finance and in Public Works on this. I guess my question for this committee would be one that we spoke about in Public Works around cost. What is the cost? And so I'm not sure how many from this committee were able to hear it, and I wanted to find out a little bit more about the cost. So when Google is out, in the street, and first of all, are they getting a permit to block the street when they, do need to block the street for any period of time? Secondly, if they've disrupted our infrastructure in some form or fashion, how does that get repaired or remedied? Is the city compensated and our staff has to do it, or does Google do that themselves? And if so, how does that meet our planning standards? And then I guess I would just ask Google what other, this may be, actually, I'd rather start with planning staff than I would go to the vendor. So I don't know if planning or anybody within Metro can speak to this. I think Metro Legal was working on it. The final question that I would have would be, let's start with those two. As far as how is infrastructure impacted and what is the city on the hook for, if anything, when our infrastructure is impacted? So again, I'd like to hear from the city first, and then if they need to defer to the vendor, that'd be fine.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to request that those questions be carried over and answered at our next meeting, as well as any information that is being provided to Public Works and to Budget and Finance, because we only have 10 more minutes left in committee. So I just wanted to get those questions out there. Council Lady Benedict, I'm sorry to cut you off in that regard. But just wanted to see if there were any other questions. And it sounds like we need to request any information provided to the other two committees need to come to us. And so with that, I am going to move to defer one meeting. Council Lady Benedict or Councilman Withers, do you want to second that?
I second that.
Great, thank you. If there is anyone who wants to vote against the motion to defer, please raise your hand now. Okay, seeing none and hearing none, that bill is deferred. And again, for Ms. Zeitlin or any of our staff on the call, please redirect any information going to Public Works and Budget to us as well. So that brings us to item number 22 on our agenda, BL 2020-376, Swope and Council Lady Johnson.
Good evening. Madam Chair, Swope here.
Great, thank you. And I did not have this on consent because you have a proposed substitute. So I'm going to motion. Oh, wait, let me read the caption. Yes, BL 2020-376. Let me read the caption real quick. 376 changes RS15, R20, and R40 to RS15, RS20, RS40 zoning for various properties located along Broadwell Drive, Woodhurst Drive, Bradfield Court, Bradfield Drive, Granbury Heights Drive, Heather Lane, Heather Springs, Hill Road Circle, San Marcos Drive, Falmouth Drive, and Wakefield Drive. So I am moving to approve. Councilman Withers, if you will give us the second.
Second.
Thank you. And so I am now going to move the proposed substitute. Councilman Withers for the second.
Second to the substitute.
Thank you. Councilman Swope, is there anything that we absolutely need to know about this?
All the substitute does is remove one additional home who decided to opt out the day of council 2 weeks ago. And rather than suspend the rules, I opted to defer one meeting.
I think that was probably wise. All right. Is there any, we have it properly in front of us. Are there any questions on the proposed substitute? Hearing none, seeing none, we are going to vote on the proposed substitute. If you are against the proposed substitute, please raise your hand now. Okay, hearing none and seeing none, your bill is substituted. So now, as the bill is substituted,
Madam Chair, I ask you to my bill as substituted.
Right. So I will make that motion. Councilman Withers for the second. Great, got it. So we are now on the proposed substitute for BL 2020-376. If you are against moving this for approval, please raise your hand now or speak now. Hearing none, seeing none. Councilman Swope and Council Lady Johnson, your bill is substituted, has passed our committee. That takes us back to Council Lady Allen. She's still missing from the queue, but Ms. Zeitlin, can you explain to us item number 9 on our agenda, BL 2020-380 as amended in the proposed amendment? We already have a motion and it's properly before us.
Sure. This amendment basically does two things. First, it would require all appraisal reports to be this is for property that this is the sale, purchase, lease, sublease, or disposition of real property owned by Metro. It would require all appraisal reports for this for such property to be prepared by an independent state certified real estate appraiser. It would also require all legislation approving the lease of Metro-owned property valued in excess of $1 million to a private entity for a lease term of more than 5 years to have a publicly noticed community meeting before the council can consider the legislation. The amendment The amendment in the packet basically just has detailed notice provisions in there. So it really just lays out in specifics how notice will have to go about to the community. That includes at least 14 days prior to the first council consideration, written notice to all property owners within 1,000 feet, notice to identified neighborhood associations and community organizations located in a 1 mile radius of the property, and notice to organizations that have registered with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhoods and incorporated condominium associations registered with the Metro Clerk. It also discusses in detail public notice signs and things like they have to be posted along the frontage of the property. I think it's every 100 feet. Each along 300 feet of the public street frontage.
All right, hearing that explanation, are there any questions from the committee on the proposed amendment before us? Hearing none and seeing none, we will vote on the proposed amendment. If you are against the proposed amendment, please raise your hand or speak now. Having none of that, the amendment goes on the bill. So we are now voting on the bill BL 2020-386 as amended previously and as amended tonight. If you have any questions on that, please raise your hand now. Hearing none and seeing none, we will vote on BL 2020-386. If you'd like to vote against this bill as amended twice, please raise your hand now or speak if you cannot raise your hand. Seeing none, the bill as amended passes. And with that, it is the end of our agenda, and I thank you for participating, and I will hand it over to Council Lady Johnson for rules in about 4 minutes. We are adjourned.